fantastic industry to be involved in. And a farm kid growing up in Michigan, I never expected I'd get this far in anything, really. But to be able to stay in the ag industry somewhere is just a fantastic opportunity. So really, thank you for all that all of you do for this industry. It's a fabulous place to be. Secondly, for my friend on the camera back there, asking me to stand still is like asking the wind to stop blowing. So good luck. And if I could have the contraption, how does this thing work? Let's see, forward. There we go.
Steve did a nice job.
What's on the screen? All right. In-Furrow technologies. Gosh, it seems like that's what we're all here about. And you know what? This is what FMC does for a living. This is what we've done for a while. And you may all be familiar with a product called Capture LFR. After all of these years.
Well, thanks again for coming out, Dan.
What? Who's there?
Hope you feel better.
Somebody's on the microphone. Didn't we have this conversation a little bit? I hope you're not in the restroom. Somebody's chasing him down, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, he's being chased down.
What?
Are we talking to each other?
Yeah, I know.
I'm not sure I heard. This is hysterical. Pardon me for just a moment. Pardon me for just a moment while I get my alter ego under control. And in case you're wondering, I do everything that the voices in my head say. Okay? All right. Are we good? Are we sure? Okay. If I go 2 minutes over, just putting that out there now. I don't want to belabor this because Capture LFR has been out for a while. What I do want to use it for is to level set us in the way we think about what's going to happen in the future. Because really that's what we're talking about in this entire process is what's going on in the future. And what's going on out there is 90% of the time you use Capture LFR, you're going to win. This is actual on-farm field trials. These are not small plot situations where we're asking them to take 2 rows out of the middle of a 40-foot section. This is large commercial growers with the equipment and the product on their farms, putting out 40, 50, 60 acres at a time, and these are the yield maps that we're getting back. So across the last 3 years, using Capture LFR is a pretty good bet that it's going to outproduce the crop that doesn't use it. Okay, so again, let's level set ourselves with where we're going in the future, and remember this little piece of data. It's all about the formulation technology. It doesn't have to be about the active ingredient. The active ingredient in Capture obviously works, otherwise growers wouldn't continue to use it. So pest control is happening. But it's all about the formulation technology. This is the formulation technology. We didn't get most of that, Brian, but we got most of that. Yeah. And we're all going to use that as an example in our next. Yeah. So if you look at the red line on top, this is active ingredient distribution throughout the tank. When you're putting on acre after acre after acre of in-furrow fertilizer and insect control products and whatever else is going to wind up in the furrow in the future, you really want to know that the first acre planted and the last acre planted get the same stuff on them every single time, right? Otherwise, what you wind up with is the patterns that we saw where you got irregular growth of the corn plant and stuff like that. So what we're trying to do with LFR, with liquid fertilizer ready technology, is ensure that the product that goes in the tank is the same concentration throughout the planting process. That's what you get. Now, if you use a standard old EC formulation, which is that blue line on the bottom, you're not going to do so well, and there are some compatibility agents that have been introduced in the last few years that help the process out, but there's really nothing like LFR technology for mixing an insecticide into a liquid fertilizer system, okay? Baseline, right there. What we're going to talk about moving forward is what we're doing with our formulation technologies in the LFR system. We're going to talk about Thrive 3D. We're going to have a little conversation about VGR. And all of these are in-furrow technologies, and there's a few of them, so let's boogie. Okay. We have for years talked about the zone of protection with Capture. The zone of protection is about protecting that seedling from insect pest pressure. Okay? This is really taking that to the next level, because what we're doing now is we're introducing controls not just for seedling insects, but we're introducing controls also for soil pathogens. And that's the insecticide, fungicide in an at-plant technology to give you as much protection for that seed and seedling as you can possibly get. What are we going to get from that? Well, we already heard the benefits of consistent uniform stands. We heard about that. We heard about ones that are plants that are 2, 3, 4, 7 days behind become weeds over time. So how do we prevent that from happening? We just listened to a discussion about seed treatments and how long do seed treatments last? 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, whatever that is. That's about how much chemistry can I wrap around the seed and still plant the thing, right? That's about soil half-life with active ingredients. That's about the fact that if you get the rulerometer out and you realize that root systems grow 6 inches wide, I think that's what the rulerometer said, right? And that seed treatment is only on that little itty-bitty seed, okay? So you're outside the protection from the seed treatment. Well, how do you get a control product to be where the roots are? One of the ways you do that is help the thing grow along with the roots, okay? That's the advantage of biological technologies. We still have to be able to mix in liquid fertilizers, right? Foundational, has to happen. So this has to work in an LFR technology. And then you have to be able to see it, right? You have to be able to walk out in the field and look at it and see it. But ultimately, you have to be able to drive across the field with the combine at the end of the year and harvest it, right? You got to be able to put that money in the bank. So what are we trying to do? Consistent, uniform stands is a big deal. Healthier plants, we're trying to maximize the yield potential that's already there. We can't make it any more than it is. We can just help get as much of it as possible. And we're doing that by giving you the strongest plants that we can give you in the In-Furrow technologies. So let's get specific. Ethos XB is the first product we're going to talk about today. Ethos XB is the same technology as Capture LFR. So we're talking about that active ingredient in the LFR formulation, right? And then it's introducing a biofungicide in the same product. So we're talking about a formulated LFR product that contains both the Capture insecticide bifenthrin and a biofungicide. And what this product is doing then is giving you the spectrum of control that you're accustomed to getting from your Capture LFR product, as well as giving you a pretty broad spectrum of disease protection from Fusarium, from Pythium, from Phytophthora, from Rhizoctonia. Okay? And that biofungicide, okay, that's the part that's going to, you just saw the images of it before, that's the part that's growing along with the root zone. That's the part that's spreading out beyond the seed treatment area or the application area. The insecticide active ingredient, just like always, stays exactly where you put it. Okay, so you're getting control where the product is, but the fungicide protection that you're getting from the bio part of this equation is the part that's growing along with the seed. So that's why we discuss, you know, this biological business is really getting fun. We all, FMC, BSF, pick a company, we all got into it here pretty recently, last 3-4 years or so. There's a lot of exciting stuff that's going to come out of this, and it's a fascinating time to be in this business, just purely from the biological perspective and what it's going to be able to do for our crop protection products. Okay, to answer the question I think you asked a little bit earlier, how do these things work? Well, there's going to be some similarities in how these things work. This one in particular, this particular biofungicide is something that's going to produce lipopeptides that actually kill pathogens. Okay? So it does that. That's one. The second thing that it does is it sets up that physical barrier. So when you see the image of this treated down here, there's a pointer on this thing, right? It's the middle button. There we go. What you see here is these colonies are forming along the root hairs. Okay? And as long as there is actively growing root systems, there's a relationship there where the bacterial colonies can live off of what those root systems are putting out. So they're not living on the root. Okay, they're not extracting nutrients from the root to live. What they're living off of is that environment that surrounds the root. And so they will grow and coexist with that root system while that root system grows for as long as it grows. Once it starts to senesce, right, then these bacterial colonies don't have anything to live on, and so they die off too. So they don't last forever. They grow along with the root system while the root system's growing, and then they don't grow anymore. But the benefit is that biofilm that they produce that grows along the root that sets up that barrier so that pathogens can't penetrate that, okay? And then in addition to that, it's the lipopeptide production that happens both in the fermentation process while we're making this product, as well as when it's in the soil and it's colonizing and growing, it's producing more of these lipopeptides that are actually controlling pathogens. Okay, so nutshell, but that's really how this particular biofungicide works. Okay, all right. Cold, wet, early planted. This is a map of soils that have really benefited from the addition of tiling. You can see my source up there. We're really trying to focus in a lot of our products on where they're going to create the most benefit. And you see Minnesota's kind of in the middle of that whole thing. There are other products that you're going to hear about either shortly or in the next few months that FMC is going to be bringing out that'll fill in some of these gaps. But you can't expect the benefit on every farm, on every acre. We've talked a little bit about that too. Somebody was talking about 160 pounds of N. Who was that? Sorry if I missed it. 160 pounds of N on every field, was that you? Yeah, every field, every time. Doesn't work on every field, every time. And so we're not trying to create the magical product that every corn grower in the world is going to be able to use and it's going to work perfectly for them. There are some targets where you can go and get the most benefit out of a product. And so we're going to spend a lot of time making sure that we understand what that acre advantage is going to look like. Okay, so this is where we're going to start with Ethos XB. High production environments, heavy organic matter, lots of tile, benefits from water movement. But disease pressure can be high, and early planting happens with some frequency. All right, that's Ethos XB. You remember the 90% wins with Capture LFR? Remember that chart from just a few slides ago? Well, if so far, with the limited amount of trials that we've got, again, out in the field, if we can beat Capture 75% of the time, we're feeling pretty good about that. Okay? 2015 trials, we get to see all of that data in December, and we'll see how that rolls up. But our expectations are obviously pretty good. So, because in the end, growers got to buy it, and they've got to be paid back for it, and they've got to see coming, right? They've got to see it coming. They've got to know that there's going to be a return on this investment. So we're going to continue to work on supporting the story here, but it's the same kind of chart that you saw with Capture LFR. So that's Ethos XB. Any questions before I move on about that particular product?
What does the Ethos XB eat?
What does it eat?
Yeah.
Whatever it wants.
What does it want?
So, first of all, I'm not a scientist, and I didn't play one on TV, and I'm probably not the right guy to answer that particular question. But there is, what's the word I'm looking for from the scientific community? Well, that's part of it, yeah, but root systems excrete, right? And it eats that, whatever that is. So the root system excretes things that it doesn't find useful, and this bacteria loves it. It's like a steak dinner, unless you're a vegetarian. Then it's tofu or something. Okay, so it lives off of what the root doesn't want, discards. But that's why there's such proximal relationships there, is because what the root is excreting happens right on the surface of the root. So this bacteria is honing in on that, and it's living off of that. And it's not that it loves corn roots in particular, but we're putting it in the furrow where the corn root's growing. So is it possible that you'll find it on a weed? Sure. Some other root system growing in the soil, you might find it colonizing there as well. Okay? Same kind of principle though. When the root system starts to die off, then this bacteria will also. Okay? Good question. Thanks for stepping me back up on my toes. All right, let's talk about VGR. VGR, this is also a biological product. And what we're doing with VGR is similar to what you just heard Scott talk about. In 2016, we'll be supplying a co-pack to the marketplace. And the co-pack will be Capture LFR, as you've known it and loved it for years, with the addition of a dry formulation of VGR, which is a biological product, okay? And what this is doing, this is very interesting stuff. Some of this I just picked up yesterday, so it's not in the slides. But as soon as I have the information available and can publish it, I will. What we found with VGR is that it produces the same amount of vegetative growth as an untreated plant with 17% less water. Okay, so you're getting more efficient utilization of the water that's in the soil to grow the same amount of plant as you would with an untreated plant. And we found that this is true in dry soils as well as wet ones. So we've got a more efficient utilization of the water that's in the soil that's going on with the addition of VGR. Now, before you ask me how, I don't know. I really don't. We know that it does this, okay, but we don't know how it does this. Now, we've also had some discussions around the utilization or the ability of the plant to utilize nutrients that are in the soil, either additive based on the fertilizers that go in or the nutrients that are already there in the soil. So we have had discussions about that. So some of it has to do with this right here, ethylene production, okay? And that helps to minimize the impact of drought stress. But what we're really looking at here is some physiological thing that's going on, an interaction between VGR and the plant that's giving it better utilization of water. So this is going to be exciting new ground for us to continue to discover as we move on with this product and other products. So again, 2016 co-packed. You're going to get a case of Capture LFR, 2 by 2.5s. Right on top of that, be an envelope full of VGR. Mix them in the tank when you fill up your fertilizer and roll on. And it's a 1-to-1, jug to packet. Okay. Here is an image of what that looks like, that colonization of the root that you see in green over here. And that just grows along with the root system. So this is the other thing that's going to be consistent with biologicals is the fact that they're really growing alongside that root system. And then over here what you see is, this is just off our research farm down in Georgia where we got a yield bump with Capture. We already talked about Capture LFR. You get a yield bump on Capture LFR. Historically, it's been about 10.5, 11 bushels per acre more than untreated. And with the addition of VGR, we're getting even a couple more bushels on top of Capture. And really, this is what we set out to do. If Capture LFR is the standard in insect control in liquid fertilizer-ready systems, then we really want to outdo ourselves with this new product. That's what this is really all about, is providing a next level of insect protection and getting the plant boost in the process. So this is what it looks like in the field. This is actually one of those fields that was soaking wet in the springtime. And you see the kind of response that you got in the treated with VGR versus untreated over here. So this is something you can see early on in the season. You see it in a consistent and uniform stand. You see it in a stand that emerges 2-3 days faster. You see it in plant growth early on in the season. And so, again, this is impressive kind of technology. Where are we going with this? Well, ultimately, it's going to be hard to find insecticides like Capture LFR that are just plain old insecticides anymore. As we get more invested in the biological space as an industry, it's going to become ubiquitous, really, that these biological additives, these biological products are going to wind up in the brands that you've grown to love over time. Okay, that's Capture LFR VGR story. So one more topic to touch on, and then we can move on. But before I do, any questions about liquid fertilizer ready or LFR technology? Somebody ask something so I can get a drink. All right. Let's talk about Thrive 3D. Let me tell you about excitement. This is exciting technology. And actually, I just spent 2 days in Western Illinois on this project. Thrive 3D is a patent-pending FMC formulation that is a three-dimensionally expanding in-use product. And we're doing it at very low volumes. So let's put this in the context of the insecticide world. You're going to try to put on 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 ounces of a liquid insecticide in the furrow, and you're generally going to do that in 2.5 to 3 or 3.5 gallons of water, right? We're doing it in a quart of water. And we're still getting the same 8-ounce rate of product in the furrow, okay? And we're actually covering the entire furrow, as opposed to, I don't know if you know it or not, but liquid systems in the furrow are dribble systems. They drip and drip and drip and drip, and it's not just a constant stream of product going into the furrow. It's a dribble system. It drops out as it drops out. So does it land on the seed? Well, sometimes, not all the time. Does it land in between them? Sure, it does that too. What we're doing with Thrive 3D is creating this continuous band of protection in the entire furrow. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like. But we're doing it in a fraction of the volume of water. Okay, and we're doing it in a central fill system that doesn't take up a lot of space on the planter. Actually, we can fit it on any color planter that you got. And yes, we do offer it with different color tanks for those who find that important. Be amazed at how many people find that important. So let's talk a little bit more about what it is. Okay, what you have is you got a system that sits on the toolbar on the planter. This is a 130-gallon water tank. This is a 30-gallon concentrate tank. These down here are the mechanicals. This is what drives everything out through the lines down here into the back of the planter where the manifold's parked. Manifold operates on a 4 to 6 row sections. And what happens is the water and the concentrate are being combined in this manifold with air and expanding that formulation three-dimensionally, okay, foam. That product then gets delivered down through into the furrow, okay, and this is what it looks like coming out. And this is an actual picture. This is real. I actually took this off of a video. That's why it's a little bit blurry. But it's an actual picture. We just took the row closers off and mounted the camera on the back so you can see. But what you see is this continuous rope of solution, right? Concentrate and water that's expanding three-dimensionally and covering up that seed. And it's delivering that insecticide throughout the entire foam rope. Okay, so we're covering the whole furrow, and we're doing it with 8 ounces of capture and 32 ounces of water. And that system right there, as it's set up, will plant right around 500 acres on a single fill. All right? So think about what the grower's trying to get done in a year, right, in a planting season. They're trying to plant as many acres as they can in as short a window as possible. And who said it? The bigger getting bigger. Was that you, Scott? The bigger getting bigger. Bigger getting bigger faster. And planters are getting wide. Well, they've gotten about as wide as they can get. 48 rows is a lot to haul down the driveway or the road. So they've gotten about as wide as they can get, and now they're really talking about 10-mile-an-hour planters. That's really moving across the field. And if you've ever listened to Ken Ferry talk, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I've heard him talk about accuracy of insecticide systems at high speeds. I would really encourage you to ask him about that. What we're doing with Thrive 3D is creating a system, right? So it's the equipment and the formulation that allow you to apply insecticides as fast or as slow as you want to. Whatever your planter's set up to run, you want to run 10 miles an hour, go. we can deliver accurately the right amount of product into the furrow, no matter how fast you want to drive. Okay? So that's the Thrive 3D story. Now, sustainability. That's one of the words I haven't heard yet today. But we have been talking about something to do with water around Des Moines. I think we've been hearing about that a little bit. Right? Water is a big deal. Water supply is a big deal. Global supply of water is a big deal. And if we can successfully create the same kind of protection with a system that uses remarkably less water, then we can add to this sustainability target that we're all trying to reach. Okay, so let's just put this in the context of a granular application for in-furrow insect control. Then let's just say that there's big rate ranges on the products you can apply. But let's just say that you're putting 4 pounds of product on an acre. So 1 million acres would be 4 million pounds, right? Did I do my math right? It's marketing math. Okay? Plus, you got to touch every row. You got to put a box on it. You got to take a box off of it. Okay? You got to do all the stuff that's on every single row. If you took that same acre with 8 ounces of Capture Thrive 3D and 32 ounces of water, what you can effectively do is you can reduce your 4 million pounds of product down by about 86%. And you're locally sourcing the water, so that means we're not adding it to a formulation. So we're not transporting it across the country. We're not burning fuel. We're not taking up space by doing that. Okay, so we reduce the volume applied. We reduce the horsepower and thereby fuel that it takes to drag all that stuff across the road and the field. All right? We already talked about being able to plant 500 acres on a single fill. I don't know of a lot of systems that allow you to do that right now. You fill the seed hoppers up at home, fill the Thrive 3D system up at home, go out, plant 500 acres, come back, have dinner, go to bed, wake up, do it all over again. Right? So the amount of people and equipment that it takes to service that planter while it's on the road, that goes down too. Okay? This technology has the capability of impacting specifically our water use, our fuel use, our space use, our labor use, our time use, okay? By virtue of compact, central fill, low volume, same coverage, actually more coverage than what you're getting now. So that's the Thrive 3D system. Now the first product out of the chute is Capture. And I say first product, that means we're working on others. And we're probably 2 years away from announcing what our next product launch is going to be. In 2015, we had, let me go back to this. In 2015, we had 35 beta test units on farms. So we have thousands of acres underneath this system. And this was the, we've got the thing. It's mostly ready to go. So let's go out, we'll put it on real farms, on real planters, we'll ask real growers to use it, and they did. And as I said, thousands of acres across 9 states on various planters at various planter speeds, anything from 16 up to 48 rows. And actually there was a split 36, so 72 rows that we've had this product on. And what I was doing for the last 2 days in Western Illinois was following up on all the work that's been done on that so far. So we've asked these 36 to step out on a limb with us and get this project underway, 35, sorry, and they did. And so what we found is a system that works pretty well, and we've worked out what I'm going to call the typical startup kind of stuff. It's hard to launch equipment without something snapping, right, or making you look funny at it. We had an issue or two that we have isolated them and resolved those. And now we're getting ready to really go full commercial with this product in 2016. We're going to have not an unlimited supply of equipment because we're not ready to go crazy just yet. But we learned so much from the 2015 season that we're really confident in what this product's going to be able to do for us. So that's Thrive 3D. questions about that? Or anything else from FMC?
Questions for Rick? Are you targeting that to any particular region in your 2016 rollout then, or is it?
You know, regionally, no, we're not. I tell you, the grower that's been most intrigued by this has a pretty significant operation. A couple thousand acres, pretty big planter. I mean, let's face it, if you have 500 acres of corn in total, planting all of that in a day agronomically is probably not the best thing to do. But when you've got several thousand acres and you're trying to get across those several thousand acres, those growers are trying to put 400 or 500 or 600 acres in a day. And maybe they have a planter to do that with. Maybe they have 2 planters and they're doing that. You know, is it possible to take 2 rigs and reduce them down to 1 and still be able to plant that many acres? It might be. Growers who have gone to 48 row planters and would rather have 36. If you can go 10 miles an hour with a 36 row planter and never stop to fill up your seed and your insect systems, you can get a lot of acres in a day. Maybe the same amount as you could with a 48 that you had to continuously service, right? You have to continue to tender. So it's really not a geographic specific target. It's who's the customer that this is going to appeal to because they have so much work to do and so little time to do it in, and good help is hard to find. It's that grower.
What's your distribution model?
We have a equipment manufacturing partner that is building the system for us. So FMC makes the formulated product. We sell that through our standard distributor retailer model. Our equipment manufacturer has their own retail network of equipment dealers. And so what we're doing is we're selling a system, and you're going to have an FMC person, you're going to have a person from Microtrack Systems, and the 2 of us together are going to come out and really execute this whole thing. So because we're not in the equipment business, and that's not what we do, we're a chemical company, that's what we do, right? But we found a partner that can manufacture and install and service these applicators.
You said this is an FMC patented product.
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
Both sides of it. The formulation is patent pending, and the applicator is patent pending. So this is all FMC technologies, just that we needed third-party expertise. We needed engineering expertise to come up with the delivery side.